How to win an ERC audit. You have just received an employee retention credit, ERC audit or examination letter. What do? You can of course call Torchlight or Guard Dog Tax for a free consultation. We will be glad to talk you off the ledge as necessary. You can call us at 1-877-758-7797 or email us at info@torchlighttax.com or info@guarddogtax.com, or you can take a deep breath and read the IRS letter. The fact that you have been selected for examination or audit does not mean you are guilty or that the IRS has any evidence. Indeed, in almost all cases, they do not know if you qualify for the ERC or not. This is because they do not have the data to judge your qualifications. Indeed, your ERC application had no place to put in how you qualified. They never even asked how you qualified. This is Dave Horwedel. I am an EA enrolled agent, the highest federal tax credential, and I have two related tax firms, Torchlight Tax and Guard Dog Tax. If you review the websites and YouTube channels for these two sister firms, you will see that. 1. We are a legitimate tax firm with a CPA, EA, and a tax attorney and support team. 2. That I have been warning taxpayers about the risks of improper ERC filings. 3. That I have hundreds of videos and blogs that explain a lot of tax topics in a way that shows thoughtful consideration and a balanced approach. This includes the ERC. If you are watching this video and have received an IRS ERC audit or examinations letter, you are welcome to call us or email us for a free consultation. While it is recommended you watch this and other videos on my channel, you are welcome to call us right away. This is tough material for some people to watch. If you want to bail and call me for a free consultation, that is fine. It is important that taxpayers understand that ERC law has not changed since 2021. Now, the IRS is beating the drum about fraud and encouraging taxpayers to voluntarily pay back their ERC at a discount. The IRS recently used the word fraud 7 times in a single ERC press release. They are also sending out thousands and thousands of ERC audit or examination letters, same thing, and promoting that they are doing so. They are trying to scare taxpayers with fraudulent claims into withdrawing them. Well, fair enough. If you have a fraudulent ERC claim, you should withdraw it, pay it back, and take the 20% discount they are offering you. But people are receiving IRS letters whose claims are not fraudulent. The IRS did not require those applying for the ERC by filing amended payroll tax returns Forms 941X to report how and by what test they qualified. The IRS simply does not have the data in almost all cases to know if you qualified or not. For all ERC tests, you had to have paid W-2 employees in the applicable quarters. In addition, there were 3 major ways to qualify. 1. As a recovery startup business, which began operations after 15 Feb 2021, or 2, by the gross receipts test, or 3, by the full or partial suspension tests, a recovery startup business, which began operations after 15 Feb 2021, is self-explanatory. The gross receipts test can be a bit confusing, but it is objective. The complete shutdown test is also straightforward. The partial shutdown test is open to interpretation and likely to be tested in court. Okay, let's go back to your IRS letter. Maybe there were errors in calculating your ERC or typographical errors, or not all the payroll records matched your ERC claim. This should be simple enough to handle. Maybe you filed as a recovery startup business and they are querying you about some details. Once again, this should be simple to handle. These are basically calculation errors. Things like numbers in the wrong column or a wrong digit in a social security number. These can be handled simply. They may ask you for quarterly breakdowns of your gross receipts. See my video, ERC 2024, the gross receipts test. If you qualified by gross receipts and this is what they are asking about, supply the data they seek and you are done. The third category is that you were fully or partially suspended. Once again, full suspension is clear-cut. You were closed by governmental order. But what is a partial suspension? This is covered in more detail in my video, ERC 2024, the partial suspension test. In any of these situations, we are glad to help you. You can win your ERC audit, if you qualify, by correctly answering any IRS questions or correcting any calculation errors. If they asked you how you qualified, and you qualified by gross receipts, you can send them the data necessary for them to see you qualified by gross receipts. But what if they ask how you qualified, and you qualified as a partial suspension, or don't know? Now, if you did your ERC with Torchlight Tax, audit defense with no extra charge was part of our engagement letter. Moreover, when we did your ERC, we worked out how you qualified and are ready to defend you. But what if your ERC firm is not offering audit defense, or even worse, is no longer around? What now? What if they gave you no clear analysis as to how you qualified? The most important thing about audit defense is understanding that you must respond accurately and timely to the IRS examination. The fact that they are auditing you in no way presupposes guilt. Sending incorrect data or responding with a flood of explanations or unrelated data is not going to win you any points. Not responding at all is even worse. If you can correct minor typographical or calculation errors, and this handles their questions, fine. If you can demonstrate you qualify by the gross receipts test, and that was their only question, fine. Nothing more is required. But what if you did not qualify as a recovery startup business or by the gross receipts test? ERC law states an employer can be eligible for the ERC if, in addition to satisfying other requirements, the operation of the employer's trade or business was fully or partially suspended during the calendar quarter due to orders from an appropriate governmental authority due to the coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19. Fully suspended is simple. A governmental COVID-19 order closed you down, demonstrate that your business was closed for the quarters in question, and send that data to the IRS. Done. Qualifying by the partial suspension test can be a bit more complicated. The IRS says in its guidance that it will consider you to be partially suspended if more than a nominal part of your business was suspended by a governmental order. The IRS considers more than nominal to be at least 10% of your business based on either the gross receipts from that part of the business or the total hours your employees spent working in that part of the business. If all parts of your business could operate, but you had to modify how it operated, then we will consider you to be partially suspended if you can show that the order had more than a nominal effect on your business. We consider more than a nominal effect to be at least a 10% reduction in your ability to provide goods or services in the normal course of your business. This requires a more detailed analysis than the other tests. How do you show a reduction in an ability? This is going to require an analysis of the facts and circumstances. Stating employees had to wear a mask and comply to social distancing is not enough. But if you can demonstrate that you had a greater than 10% decline in your ability to deliver goods and services due to governmental COVID-19 orders, that would qualify per the IRS guidance. Once again, if this answered the IRS questions, that would be your response and should handle the IRS audit. It is a bit more difficult to work out than the other tests. What if you did not have a 10% decline in your ability to deliver goods and services? Is all lost? You still might qualify as a partial suspension. You see, the law itself did not mention more than nominal effect or a greater than 10% reduction in your ability to deliver goods and services. It simply said fully or partially suspended during the calendar quarter due to orders from an appropriate governmental authority due to the coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19. The IRS interpreted this law in their guidance. Did they have the authority to do so? Was their interpretation correct? The courts will decide. This is sure to be tested in court. I understand why the IRS added guidance. I understand the laws passed by Congress may have been broad. I also understand we were all in the middle of a pandemic. The verbiage in the law was probably a compromise, and there were two different ERC laws that modified the first one. Congress did not ask the IRS to interpret the law for them. The IRS may say that it was necessary, and they stepped forward and did what needed to be done. Maybe they do have that authority. Once again, the courts will decide. I also understand that business owners were beset by ERC recovery firms that practically promised huge refunds. They told employers that there was no risk, as they did not have to pay them until they received their ERC. You are welcome to view my ERC videos, where I pointed out that employers had a risk of receiving the ERC, paying the ERC recovery firm, and then being audited anytime in the next 5 years and having to pay the ERC back with fines and penalties. See my video, The Biggest Misconception About the Employee Retention Credit. However, even if your ERC recovery firm did not determine if you qualified or not, you may still qualify. If they told you that there was no risk because you got the refund before you had to pay them, and now you are receiving an audit letter, we know they certainly did not tell you the full truth. This was convenient for them, as they did not have to do the work to determine if you qualified or not. In this situation, it is likely no one knows if you qualified or not. I have in my years as a tax professional run into many clients who did not want to confront their taxes and over-relied on their tax professional. This is especially true of the ERC. With hundreds of thousands of dollars available or at risk, many employers did not want to confront figuring out if they qualified or not. This is okay if you hire someone who is ethical and competent and give him the data he asks for. I have been amazed at employers who try to tell me off the cuff, I am sure I qualify. And then, after I ask a couple questions, I am sure I do not qualify, and switch back and forth in a 30-minute conversation. 30 minutes to determine qualifications for a $200,000 tax credit. That is definitely worth the trouble. I mention this here because I think many employers may be daunted by the work necessary to reply to an ERC audit letter, and am encouraging them to contact me. You are likely going to want someone to represent you before the IRS. There may be tens of thousands of dollars, or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even millions of dollars at risk in this ERC claim. With this much at stake, you need to do it right. Losing an ERC audit could ruin your firm. A voluntary ERC withdrawal might still ruin your firm, but it might save it too. It is less damaging than losing an audit. A successful ERC audit defense could safeguard your firm. I want to remind you of the history of the ERC. COVID-19 governmental orders had swept the nation. Millions and millions of employees were laid off and staying at home, collecting expanded unemployment. The government offered a credit for employers who continued to employ their workers. One benefit to the government was that they would not have to pay unemployment. Many businessmen kept their employees on payroll. Many lost money by doing so. Some prevented their gross receipts from crashing by extraordinary efforts, but lost money as a result. Now they are told they do not qualify as their gross receipts did not drop enough. Are you kidding me? But what about the partial suspension test? It is not tied to gross receipts. During the pandemic, many Americans feared the complete collapse of the economy. The Congress hastily wrote some ERC laws, and Trump and later Biden signed them. The IRS wrote guidance on how they interpreted those laws. Then, after the worst was over, the IRS started warning about fraudulent ERC claims. Tough times. If you receive an ERC audit letter or other types of ERC audit, you need to either become an expert in ERC law or hire one. Some of my clients have said they went through Hades to keep their business open and pay their employees. Some felt a responsibility for their employees and for the society as a whole. Some have told me that without ERC and other pandemic relief, they would have closed. I have a great deal of respect for business owners who kept their businesses going and employees paid despite the COVID-19 pandemic governmental orders. Some of these could lose their businesses because of an ERC audit. Now, for those who knowingly and falsely claimed the ERC, maybe they should lose their business. Many employers got the ERC after being told they qualified by ERC-only firms who did not know tax law. Some of these employers did not qualify. Some of these employers did. Many employers, while skilled in their business, are not skilled in mathematical calculations, spreadsheets, or interpreting tax law. It can be a hard thing to confront. I have had employers waffle back and forth as to whether they qualify or not in a 30-minute conversation. They did not want to confront their income and expense records and how COVID-19 affected the business. I can help you do this. If significant amounts of ERC payback are concerned, this should be confronted. If you definitely do not qualify for the ERC, you should negotiate the best deal you can. If you definitely qualify, you should respond to the IRS letter and show that you do. If we are representing you, we will negotiate or respond for you. If it is a maybe, more analysis is needed, and we can help you sort it out with certainty, or at least weigh the benefits versus the risks. If you want to learn more, I recommend you watch my 4 most recent ERC videos, including Should I Withdraw My ERC? Is the ERC Canceled? ERC 2024, the Gross Receipts Test, and ERC 2024, the Partial Suspension Test. You are also welcome to look over my websites and my blogs and videos, or if your head is spinning on this and it all seems too much, you can call me for a free consultation at 1-877-758-7797 or email me at info@torchlighttax.com or info@guarddogtax.com. I will do the best I can for you. Also, if you like this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.